Hello and welcome to Historic Places. I'm Elsa Sevilla. Thank you for joining us as we uncover Southern California's rich history. We go behind the scenes and experience a first-in-a-lifetime look at the complete restoration and revitalization of the iconic Victorian Hotel del Coronado, fondly known as the Del, in Coronado, California, just across the bay from downtown San Diego. The Hotel del Coronado, or the Del, is a National Historic Landmark built in 1887. It is known for its red roofs, turrets, fireplaces, gingerbread trim, and stained glass windows. Historic photos reflect its Victorian seaside charm and its role as a winter retreat for wealthy East Coast families who arrive by private train to the hotel's doorstep.
The Del really resonates with people. For many, it's a bucket list item to come visit the hotel. And I think they just like to be in a building that is historic and walk through the hallways where presidents, celebrities, or royalty have been before, just to be a part of that history.
In 1885, Elijah Babcock Jr. and Hampton L. Story purchased 4,200 acres of undeveloped land for $110,000, envisioning a Pacific Coast resort unlike any other, as seen in this early sketch. To realize their vision, they formed the Coronado Beach Company. Completed in 1888, the Del was financed largely through nearby land sales, with the Grand Hotel serving as the centerpiece.
Babcock and Story wanted to build a resort that would be the talk of the Western world. They introduced innovations to the hotel, things to attract visitors from the East Coast.
Lumber was shipped by barge from Oregon and Northern California to supply the massive timbers and fine wood for the Del. Early photos show the skeletal frame rising along the shoreline as the Victorian design took shape. With no modern machinery, every brick, beam, and piece of metal was cut and crafted on site, a true masterpiece of ingenuity.
The style of the Hotel Del is Queen Anne Victorian, which is kind of a sub-style of Victorian. It's kind of the most ornate version of Victorian, and we often refer to the decoration and the ornamentation as gingerbread, because it looks like a gingerbread house. It's got all the brackets and the shaped columns and the intricate railings.
Architect James Reed directed more than 2,000 workers who worked in shifts around the clock, and in just 11 months, they completed the 425-bedroom wooden structure. But the hotel boasted 750 rooms total. When it opened, its red turrets rose proudly above the coastline, quickly becoming a beloved landmark across the West Coast and the country.
The Hotel Del is basically just a big Victorian mansion, a 500-room Victorian mansion. And so they basically upscaled all of those features. And the roof forms you see, it's a mix of gable and hip roofs. And the decorative ends on the roof, we call those gables.
Babcock and Story also began planning the town before the hotel was built. An early map from the mid-1880s shows a carefully designed community. Though often mistaken for an island, Coronado is actually a tide island, connected to the mainland by the narrow Silver Strand. Through the Coronado Beach Company, Babcock and Story launched ferry and rail service, developed water systems, and built a power plant to light the hotel and nearby properties. Their efforts ensured the Del's success, transforming the peninsula into a premier destination and laying the foundation for the city of Coronado. Just 2 years after the hotel opened, Hampton Story sold his shares in the Coronado Beach Company to sugar magnate John D. Spreckles. Based in San Francisco, Spreckles left daily operations to Elijah Babcock. In 1900, Spreckles brought Story's vision of Camp Coronado to life, better known as Tent City, just south of the hotel, attracting even more visitors.
And then eventually it became a year-round attraction, and it was renamed Tent City. And it ran from 1900 until 1940, and it really did grow into its own city. It had its own newspaper, it had its own post office, It had amusements for people. There was a bathhouse, there was a rifle range, bumper cars.
The new outdoor accommodations were a hit, offering cool summer weather with affordable rates, attracting new guests to the hotel. Photos of Tent City highlight the numerous guest activities, which included a merry-go-round that was later moved to Balboa Park in 1922, where it still operates. 4 years after the Del opened, tragedy struck in 1892 when a woman registered as Lottie Bernard was found dead from a gunshot wound on an exterior staircase, sparking national attention. She would later be identified as Kate Morgan from Iowa. Her death and reasons for visiting the hotel remain unsolved until this day.
Found Lottie Bernard, or Kate Morgan. Not only do we have her guest register with her signature, but we have the charges that were posted to her room when she was here. And so now I can put that information together with the coroner's inquest and what our staffs reported that she ordered to the room or spent at the drugstore. I have all of that information.
The Del's proximity to Hollywood attracted silent film productions and celebrities starting around 1918. Years later, in 1958, films like Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, and Jack Lemmon were also filmed at the Del. The resort has also hosted presidents, industrial magnates, and European royalty.
We had a lot of Hollywood stars come down. We had Betty Davis, Lauren Bacall, Charlie Chaplin premiered some of his movies here. Errol Flynn used to have a Wild Parties here. We also had presidents here and very wealthy people from all over the country that would come here. It was definitely a high-end seaside resort. And in 1920, we had Prince Edward come here.
The historic Hotel del Coronado is one of the few remaining seaside Victorian resorts left in the world. Carefully preserved for nearly 140 years, it continues to be a cherished destination, captivating visitors year after year. As one of the most iconic and largest surviving Victorian beach resorts in the U.S., the Del captivates visitors from around the world. Recreating its main entrance was critical to preserving its historic integrity. Surprisingly, the Del expanded just 5 years after its 1888 opening and again after World War II to accommodate more guests and staff, with owners altering its architectural style long before the 1966 Historic Preservation Act offered protections. Over the decades, alterations removed original features and added elements that reshaped the Del's design. Although a master plan had existed since 1963, Blackstone's partial stake in 2011 to full acquisition in 2015 marked the point when the company truly set out to complete the restoration.
These are the architectural details that made up the hotel. There was never a formal main set of plans for the construction of the hotel, but we do have individual drawings, whether it's the foundation, whether it's the framing in the crown room or the ballroom or the office rotunda, the archways. All of these plans are available. We have them, and extremely important, especially as you try to do a historic restoration.
Today, that legacy continues with the Del's more than $550 million restoration and revitalization, reviving historic features and preserving key details. Our team documented the project from 2019 to its 2025 completion. You'll see the transformation unfold over the 6-year project.
From an architecture and design and engineering perspective, we spent a tremendous amount of time trying to figure out what was the right plan, what's the right scope of work, but we take the responsibility very seriously just because we're dealing with an iconic asset and we want to treat it in the right way.
Historic photos show the 1888 veranda with its intricate design and twin staircases. The left were for unaccompanied women and the right for couples and men. In 1961, the stairs were removed and the veranda enclosed as a promenade room, later used as office space. Though once extended 30 feet beyond its footprint, only 15 feet were reclaimed in the restoration. It was fully rebuilt to its original design by architect David Marshall and his firm.
Track down drawings. I mean, the hotel has a very good archives, and we were able to reference the oldest floor plans that are known. There's not a full set of drawings. Apparently, when they built the hotel, they basically just had a general plan, and then they worked with the various carpenters and designed it as they went along.
The project included the Dell reviving one of its most iconic features, the historic main veranda entrance, missing for nearly 80 years. Rebuilding it was a major undertaking. It required months of design and craftsmanship to accurately recreate the veranda. Its return restored a defining element of the hotel's original facade.
What used to be here, which we're in the recreated version of, is this front veranda, the front porch of the hotel. Very large, completely across the south facade of the building. Beautiful wood floors, open ceilings, decorative columns, Victorian gingerbread. This was all gone. And people had not seen this probably since the 1940s.
During the project, workers and craftspeople restored and recreated many lost Victorian details, including columns, gingerbread trim, double-hung sash, and the stained glass windows on the first floor. It was a meticulous effort that required expert skill and historical accuracy.
It's really rewarding to see something like being able to take a building plan and apply it, see it applied today in a restoration, and then now we have access to Babcock's letters, so we can be looking at materials, where they were ordered from, as well as guest registers, which tell us the social history of the hotel.
Historic photos, documents, and architectural drawings from the Dell's archives guided the restoration, bringing back the veranda's intricate craftsmanship, its sweeping arches, ornate woodwork, and after decades, the return of the hotel's original main wooden doors.
And the door was originally 4 wooden doors together that would open up. So a very grand entrance, really, to the hotel, and right next to the very large fireplace that was removed in 1936 and that we didn't know what originally looked like.
The original plans and photos revealed the 2 main doors, providing the details needed to recreate them. During the 2020 project, the veranda's woodwork, light fixtures, and other features were meticulously recreated to reflect the 1888 design, blending historic accuracy with modern updates and building codes. Recreating the historic veranda was a major and important project. Each restored and replicated detail is preserving the hotel's Victorian heritage, allowing guests to experience the hotel's elegance and storied past as guests did in 1888. The Dell has long stood out for its whimsical Victorian charm as one of the few remaining wooden seaside resorts of its kind. At its heart lies the Grand Rotunda, an iconic lobby that has welcomed guests for generations. Magnificent and timeless, it remains one of the most authentically preserved spaces since the Dell first opened.
I actually have a historic image from around 1888 which shows the lobby. The main configuration is still very much the same, column locations and coffered ceiling, but the front desk used to be very small. It was in the back corner there.
Documents and historic black and white photos reveal incredible details of the hotel's rotunda or lobby, showcasing the check-in and newspaper areas as well as the Victorian architecture and decor.
When the building was first constructed, there were kind of these lace curtain partitions between the rooms, but there were not walls. So in later years, they built these walls that you see, and there's a gift shop behind us, and a little bit further down, there's an entry hallway, and then the stairs. But in this photo, you can look all the way through and see the stairs, and these are still there.
In 2020, the restoration and revitalization project focused on the lobby. Architect David Marshall helped restore and preserve key Victorian features, bringing the Dell back to its historic 1888 splendor. Today, the hotel looks closer to its historic state than at any other time in its nearly 140-year history.
Our role was to make sure that anything that was historic was preserved, and anything that was missing, if we were able to bring it back to the 1888 appearance, that we would do so.
Workers meticulously restored the original detailed woodwork by stripping away layers of paint. The restoration also involved dismantling and numbering each piece of the coffered ceiling for reassembly as new beams were installed to support and expand the lobby's check-in area.
The ceiling is made up of 4 bays, and the bays to my left here or behind me are the original ones, and then these other 2 are recreations or replicas of that. But the process that was involved was we had to document and dismantle that ceiling. So, just a big puzzle basically. So all those individual pieces were labeled and numbered in north, south, east, west.
Historic photos and documents were instrumental in revealing lobby elements and decor lost since the late 1800s. A rare architectural plan showed that the grand lobby fireplace once stood near the main entrance, crowned by a stained glass window above it. Over time, the window was relocated multiple times, and the fireplace was dismantled due to fire safety concerns.
We know that it was about 20 feet wide. It was quite large and ornate. We do have the original drawings provided by Reed that show us what it should have looked like. But very ornate. It was supposed to heat the entire lobby.
The completed project reveals a breathtaking view of the beautifully restored lobby, while the second-floor mezzanine offers a striking vantage point of its intricate woodwork, details that capture the Dell's Victorian charm and transport you to its early days in the 1880s.
Now this is a drawing of the ceiling from the second floor of the lobby or rotunda, and so this shows the detail in the woodwork. And they used Illinois oak to construct the ceiling, and it was, which has all been restored. It was lighter originally, and over the years it darkened with stain and paint in one instance, and so now it's been refinished and restored to its original splendor.
The hardwood floors and Victorian decor have been thoughtfully reimagined to reflect the era, featuring period-style flooring, a new chandelier designed to match the time, recreated original-style wallpaper, and a key rack that captures the charm of the Victorian period. The result is magnificent. In 1888, the Dell's first floor reflected the charm of the Victorian era, with ornate fireplaces, fine furnishings such as in the parlor, beautifully ornate frescoes in the music room, stunning detailed woodwork in the reading room, and there were other elegant public spaces. But over time, these rooms were repurposed.
Originally, the hotel was heated with fireplaces primarily. The guest rooms had fireplaces as well as all of the public rooms. And this was very common of the Victorian era. However, they were also a fire danger. And so as time went on, the fireplaces were slowly removed. They were replaced with steam heat.
But the most significant transformations for the hotel were yet to come. Early photos show that the Dell originally featured verandas and exterior circulation throughout the 4 main floors of the Victorian building. Floor plans revealed that ground floor guests access rooms via the verandas, with clusters of rooms sharing entrances and communal baths. Visitors would have originally entered their guest rooms through exterior verandas. This hallway wouldn't have been here. It would have been part of the original rooms, but it was added years later.
They would enter from the courtyard, they would enter into a sitting room, and the sitting room would branch off into 5 or 8 different rooms. So the individual guest rooms did not have doors to the hallway or to the veranda. They had doors off of a little sitting room, which was just kind of a little gathering lounge type shared living space.
The hotel's grand west side veranda once featured large windows and beach-facing staircases, offering stunning ocean views characteristic of Victorian architecture. Rare historic photos capture how guests passed their time and the grandeur of this iconic space. This would have been one of the most significant discoveries during the restoration process, the exterior veranda on the northwest side. It was used by guests to take leisurely strolls, and if you look up, you can see the original ceiling and original paint. The Victorian-era guest rooms were simple but elegant for the period, with fireplaces, elegant furnishings, and 19th century details. If you look closely, you'll notice stencil art along the lower walls. Over the decades, the ocean-facing guest rooms were expanded by 30 feet, replacing the beautiful veranda.
This used to be where the walls of the room ended, and so we'd be outside the building right now. And they took this area, and where there used to be a railing, they put a wall with new windows, and they enlarged the rooms. But if you look up, you can see the original framing of the veranda that was exposed to view.
The reimagined guest rooms are a stunning blend of Victorian craftsmanship. Historic details were carefully preserved, while missing features were recreated with period-accurate replicas. The iconic balconies, added when the guest rooms were expanded, offer sweeping views of the Pacific and the surrounding property. The Dell has undergone many revitalizations over the years, but none as transformative as this. By restoring original woodwork and replicating countless missing elements, this project ensures that the Dell's rich history and enduring elegance are fully brought back to life and preserved. Step into a world of artistry and history as we unveil one of the Dell's most cherished masterpieces, the stained glass windows, including the coronation window. Its recent rehabilitation stands as a testament to the Dell's commitment to safeguarding its history. One of the main centerpieces of the Dell is its original 5 by 6 foot stained glass coronation window, depicting a woman crowning herself. Designed by architect James Reed, who also designed the hotel, the window features nearly 700 pieces of intricately crafted glass. Its size and detail make it truly one of a kind.
She's a spectacular window. She was the focal point of the lobby originally, and above the lobby fireplace. For many years, it's a focal point then, it's a focal point now, and she's just gorgeous.
Reed envisioned something grand, a window that would serve as the main focal point as guests arrived at the resort. The result was an allegorical representation of San Diego's mountains, valleys, and bay.
This just shows some of the detail of the framing for the coronation window that was set in the fireplace. It was visible from both inside and from outside. Some of the things that this drawing reveals is that it was framed using Oregon sugar pine, which is the wood that we used inside the crown room.
With the arrival of steam heat and fire concerns, many of the Dell's original fireplaces were removed from its 425 rooms as early as 1892, prompting the relocation of the stained glass window in the 1930s and again in the 1990s to the 4th floor, where it would stay for more than 3 decades until its rehabilitation in 2020.
Oh, we're floating above the Hotel del Coronado's front entry. We're about 4 stories up. Most of the glass has a special tape on it to hold it in place that won't damage it. The area of glass that has hand painting on it, we don't want to use any tape.
During the restoration, crews removed the stained glass window from the 4th floor. Over 3 days, workers carefully dismantled the frame to free the window. We were there as it unfolded. It was delicately hoisted down with a big crane and transported to Barra Stained Glass Studios in San Diego's North County for a nearly year-long rehabilitation. Nicole Purvis and Brian Canfield of Barra Stained Glass Studios, experts in antique stained glass restoration, rehabilitation, and recreations, assessed the window and discovered it had faced outward for more than 2 decades. Despite being protected by plexiglass, prolonged sun exposure had caused significant damage. What condition was it in when it came in?
It was in a failing state. The lead was completely deteriorated. All of the joints were cracked and broken, all the lead joints. They're not soldered yet, so you can't really tell.
To rehabilitate the iconic window, Nicole and Brian carefully studied its intricate design. A thorough condition assessment of the window uncovered valuable insights. When you were restoring it, did you make any really cool discoveries?
We did. We really did find some really great things. Photograph of an early California seal that was used to model that medallion. That was really exciting when we found that.
Assessing the window was painstakingly slow but vital. Nicole and Brian had the rare opportunity to see firsthand how this masterpiece was originally crafted, gaining insight into architect Reed's vision. At times, it felt like assembling a giant jigsaw puzzle, documenting each piece along the way. Each glass piece was carefully cleaned and soldered on both sides. That's nearly 3,000 solder points for the entire window. While most of the glass pieces in the window were maintained, there were 3 pieces that were beyond repair. These are some of the original pieces that were part of the window?
These are some of the pieces that we chose to recreate because of the condition of the original piece was such that it couldn't be reused. Even though this one has been epoxied, there's just too many internal fractures and visible fractures.
It was critical to recreate the damaged pieces to preserve the antique window, especially because stained glass windows of such grandeur and intricate design are commonly linked with the architectural marvels found in European cathedrals and castles. This is why the coronation window is so extraordinary.
Same with the arm.
Oh, wow.
You can see some of it was epoxied, but also you can see the chips were just such to a degree, the aesthetics changed significantly, and it's just, when you have a piece of glass that has this kind of internal cut or a 90-degree angle, it's so vulnerable. We chose to recreate that one as well.
During the window's rehabilitation, Nicole and Brian uncovered astonishing details hidden in plain sight for decades. Without this careful restoration and assessment, these discoveries would have remained lost to time. Now, for the first time in generations, we can finally reveal them.
But when you put a black light on it, it glows, and it's uranium glass. Also, sometimes people refer to it as Vaseline glass, and it only glows in black light.
In addition, you have these jewels, as we call them, and there's a lot of jewels in different styles of jewels in this, but typically they are hand pressed. They're, you take molten glass, you put it in some sort of form. Sometimes it's graphite, and then it would have these kind of beveled recesses in it, and then the glass is pressed into it.
3 original windows were discovered on the 3rd floor, and 2 additional missing windows were identified through historic photos. Those 2, along with 21 missing veranda windows, were meticulously recreated by Barra Stained Glass Studios. The centerpiece of the restoration was the coronation window. Its rehabilitation took nearly a year. Once fully restored, this stunning work of art was carefully packaged and ceremoniously returned to the Dell. A large crane lifted it back into its original 2nd floor location, a moment reminiscent of its first placement in 1887. Our cameras captured the historic moment, and now visitors can once again admire its beauty for generations. We step into the Dell's most breathtaking spaces. The restoration of these grand rooms revealed stunning secrets hidden for decades. Iconic and elegant, they are masterpieces of craftsmanship. They are fully restored and complete with historic elements that had long been missing. The Dell's largest Victorian rooms have captivated guests since the hotel first opened its doors in February 1888. The Crown Room, a masterpiece of Victorian architecture and originally the main dining hall, features a breathtaking vaulted wooden ceiling designed by the Dell's architect, James Reed.
The Crown Room was really an architectural marvel when the hotel opened in 1888. The large expanse of the room without supporting beams, and a beautiful example of the Victorian architecture is exhibited in that room still today.
The magnificent Crown Room, spanning 160 by 60 feet with a 33-foot ceiling and floor-to-ceiling windows, showcases Gilded Age ingenuity. During the 2024 restoration, the entire space was renewed. Hidden for decades behind wood paneling, the original main hall door windows and curved transoms near the main entrance were discovered and restored.
It's just a lot of cleaning, removing mismatched stain, and replacing damaged or missing wood. And it's going to get this room looking even closer to the original than it has been in many years.
Historic images revealed 2 grand fireplaces in the crown room that showcase Victorian elegance. They were later removed due to fire safety concerns. The central balcony, which once hosted the hotel's orchestra, has been thoughtfully restored.
And then the ceiling is pretty much the way it looked opening day. It has changed very little. Light fixtures have been upgraded a couple times over the years, but these ones are still very old.
The iconic chandeliers in the crown room have a magical past. Originally created in 1909 by frequent guest L. Frank Baum, author of The Wizard of Oz. Of the 5 original chandeliers, only 1 survived. It was moved years ago to the power plant in Wagers Row, part of the industrial buildings that helped build the Victorian Hotel in 1887. Back in the crown room, the 1929 replica chandeliers were also beautifully restored.
If we took someone from 1888 that had a meal here and we took them back, they would know exactly where they were, because it's 90% the way it looked when the building first opened.
It's been well preserved.
We're going to get it back to 98%.
Scaffolding surrounded the crown room as crews restored its intricate gingerbread wood siding. The floor-to-ceiling windows were altered in 1935 and fully restored in 2024, bringing back their original elegance. The crown room remains much as it did in 1888, having welcomed countless notable guests over the years, from the Prince of Wales in 1920 to Charles Lindbergh in 1927, with earlier visitors including Thomas Edison and President Benjamin Harrison. Now fully restored, its historic charm is preserved for the next century. The Coronet Room reflects Victorian tradition, originally serving as the hotel's breakfast room. Historic photos highlight its intricate period details. Tucked next to the crown room, this scaled-down version is a true hidden gem, with exquisite original woodwork.
The reason I wanted to show you this area is it shows a partially preserved original, what we call the wainscoting on the wall, which was this made up of these square coffers. You can see where the stain marks are here. And that was what all of the lower walls in the original Coronet Room were finished by. And then it wrapped all the way around.
During restoration, original woodwork hidden beneath modern updates was discovered. From finely carved trim to ornate details, these discoveries revealed the craftsmanship of 1888 and guided the room's faithful revival.
The Coronet Room was expanded at one point, and so to take photos, original photos of the room in 1888 until it was expanded around 1930, those came in handy to look at that, and so we could have a reference as to what the room originally looked like.
The room was extended beyond the columns into what was once the veranda. The Coronet Room has been beautifully restored to its 1888 design, preserving the Del's history for the future. The majestic Ocean Ballroom, with nearly 13,000 square feet, once hosted Saturday night dances and plays in the early years, once among the largest resort convention spaces west of Chicago. Directly beneath the hotel's iconic red turret, the original Ocean Ballroom features a soaring ceiling approximately 60 feet high. In the 1960s, the ceiling was lowered to 30 feet, concealing the original turret craftsmanship.
The ballroom originally had an open ceiling, so it opened up inside the main turret. The dormer windows that you see on the outside of the turret allow natural light into the room. So originally it was beautiful woodwork. You could look all the way up inside, up to the bottom of the flag tower.
Historic photos reveal the ballroom's intricate woodwork on the second floor, with a surrounding promenade on the third floor. During the 2024 renovation, the ballroom revealed long-lost secrets. I'm at the entrance to the main ballroom, and when workers were removing the lower ceiling, they made a major discovery, a rare fresco that will be restored for guests to enjoy.
I looked up, you could just see a tiny corner of it exposed, and it was covered with a cloth that had been glued to it. And we started peeling it back a little bit, and I said, keep going, until we completely removed the cloth, and it exposed this amazing, beautiful hand-painted fresco on the ceiling that we didn't know existed.
The stencil has an ombre appearance, and it's meant to look like the undulation of silk. They used different amounts of medium in the paint to have different effects of sheen so that it would create a dimensionality. It really is what we refer to as trompe-l'oeil, fool the eye. It is meant to look quite real.
Through decades of changes to the hotel, no one knew about the breathtaking 11 by 10 foot fresco. The vibrant circular motifs and colorful flowers were fully restored. It is the only surviving of its kind at the Del and one of Southern California's oldest frescoes.
So this ceiling, by all intents and purposes, should not have been there. And it really is, when I say it's a treasure and it's rare, I mean that in every way, because it's like finding gold.
Another remarkable long hidden gem, a large window and wall in the ballroom seen in this historic photo, invisible from the second floor, had been concealed for 6 decades. Thanks to a careful investigation, its details were rediscovered before they were lost forever.
And I was moving the photo and I realized some people were looking at me through the second level. Now we had a 3rd floor observatory, which certainly there would be people there, but not on the 2nd floor. We uncovered this amazing wall, which we had no idea existed.
During construction, work crews removed the paneling to reveal the wall and large window. It has been fully restored to its original 1888 state. The 3rd floor promenade, once a stunning observatory for guests, disappeared from public view when the ceiling was lowered. We were able to see the hidden gem during an event setup. There's a window to see what goes in the ballroom.
Yes.
So this is what it would have been like.
Exactly. We could be guests from 1888 looking down into the ballroom, watching a concert or a gala. This was called the observatory, or the promenade, and it was an area where guests could gather.
The promenade retains its original railing and woodwork, preserving its historic charm. 43 historic windows, once painted black for decades, have also been restored to their original state. The area also features the Del's original film projector, a piece of history when movies were once shown in the ballroom in the early years.
And it was a guest area where they could come and look into the ballroom and any activities that were there, but they could also turn around and look at the wonderful view out the window. For many, many years, after 1961, when the roof was lowered and this was no longer served that purpose, the windows were painted black. So this was always just a dark hallway.
From the exterior, the turret windows were carefully repaired and restored, requiring extensive scaffolding to safely access the delicate upper levels. Craftsmen worked at great heights to ensure that the wood sidings also matched the original 1888 design. Above the Ocean Ballroom, the Del's iconic turret rises above the 3rd floor, accessible by a hidden staircase that reveals the intricate ingenuity of Victorian architecture. We get a rare peek inside, but it is not open to the public. The largest of the Del's 4 Victorian turret is about 120 feet tall. So we're going up the stairs in the turret. This is one of my favorite parts of the hotel.
Yeah, we're on the 5th floor going up above the ballroom, and we're basically in the attic space right now, which takes us all the way up to the crow's nest.
Once at the top, there's a quaint space featuring Victorian woodwork, surrounded by windows, and it includes a wraparound walkway. The views are breathtaking, with so much to take in, from San Diego's stunning scenery to the hotel's sprawling 28 oceanfront acre property. This is a bit of a climb, but definitely worth it.
Absolutely. Now you can imagine how our guests in the 1880s and 1890s came up here to see the view.
The second largest turret, located on the hotel's east side, is not open to the public, but we had the rare chance to see it up close. It features beautiful original woodwork. This turret was open to guests in the early years, and they would often come to see the scenic views during the hotel's early years. The Coronet Room, Crown Room, and Ocean Ballroom now stand as renewed icons of the Del's legacy. Each space has been thoughtfully restored and revived to reflect its historic splendor and inspire generations. Since its opening in 1888, the Del has been a destination like no other. At its heart lies the Victorian courtyard, as seen in the hotel's historic photos. It was a lush tropical garden, envisioned by the hotel's developers Elijah Babcock Jr. and Hampton L. Story, as the vibrant centerpiece of their grand resort.
Again, Victorians like to spend time in gardens, and so for them, it was really just a sort of paradise that Babcock wanted to create for our guests, where they could go and just relax and enjoy. So we were quite famous for a while there for our botanic gardens in the garden patio today. So, and the restoration has brought back many of those plants that we see in Babcock's letters.
Framed by the hotel's iconic Victorian architecture, the garden has long been a favorite gathering place for outdoor socializing and leisurely strolls. The historic fountain was the main focal point, but it was lost for more than a century. Incredibly, an almost identical statue was found at a museum in Washington State.
The statue was discovered up in Port Townsend, Washington. They had the exact same statue. And then that it was still preserved, and that they were able to make a mold of it and recreate the statue for us. And so I think that was, I mean, what are the odds you're going to find that same statue from 1888 anywhere else in the U.S.?
Led by Burton Landscape Architecture Studio, years of meticulous research and design brought the long-lost fountain in the Del's courtyard back to life, reviving a stunning piece of the hotel's history.
So it began this 5-year process, and that process involved taking the original 1906 statue, making wax molds of it. They have to hand sculpt these things, they have to do all the finishing. Those wax blanks were then used to make bronze castings, and then those bronze castings were then seamed together and finished and polished, and then you end up with this beautiful, sprightly statue. She's quite small.
Discovered in a vintage catalog from the Del's archives, the Naiad Queen fountain once sold for up to $900, with fewer than a dozen ever made. Finding one original over a century later makes this rediscovery remarkable.
The courtyard itself is an update of what used to be there historically. Because it is a historical site, we were beholden to some criteria that we needed to keep certain design elements, like the central walkway that goes north, south, east, and west. That is a recreation of what used to exist. And so that, coupled with the Venus or the Naiad Queen and the planting rehabilitation, made for a really thoughtful update to the whole space.
Today, the Victorian garden and its detailed replica fountain honor the resort's rich history and invites visitors to enjoy Victorian elegance. Now proudly standing once more, the statue restores a historic treasure, preserving the courtyard's timeless charm. Behind the Del is a story of innovation, its industrial buildings. These often overlooked structures were the backbone of the Del's creation, and they laid the foundation for the city of Coronado itself, shaping both the hotel and the vibrant community that grew around it. Built in 1887, the historic industrial buildings were essential to the construction and operations of both the Hotel del Coronado and the city of Coronado. Black and white photos captured so much detail from the hotel's construction site as hundreds of workers built the beautiful seaside Victorian hotel.
Originally, the power plant was the first building erected in 1887, and that remained in effect until 1922. It actually supplied all of the power to Coronado Island itself, so it was built to be robust. We also had a planing mill, we had an iron works, we had a brick kiln there on property. Everything had to be manufactured here on site.
This view shows the industrial buildings and original South Main entrance as they appeared in 2018, along with the ice house, storage areas, and other structures that were later removed.
Spaces became enclosed that originally were open air, and you have remnants of these old walls and this old green paint here, which is easily 80 to 100 years old.
Historic photos also reveal details of the original buildings, such as the hotel's stables, which were later converted into a garage, and support structures like the power plant, ice house, laundry, and carpentry shop, several of which served the hotel and community for over a century until 2018.
There was a pretty intensive master plan process in order to evaluate all the existing buildings and basically assess which ones were important to the history of the building and which ones were less so.
Our cameras captured key moments at the industrial buildings before their 2018 restoration. Lead architect David Marshall identified elements for preservation and others for removal. The exterior power plant shows years of decay and modifications, while the interior reflects non-historical changes. The power plant underwent a major restoration in 2020, ensuring its preservation, revitalizing its historic significance.
This was all a patchwork of buildings, and a lot of the windows that you see had been walled over, bricked in or covered in concrete block. Pretty much all the windows you see here are recreated because the original ones were either missing or damaged beyond repair. You can see the windows that were restored, and this was a former lower window that was here before the ice house was built.
The utility tunnel connects the power plant to the hotel, in the early years transporting steam, electricity, and other utilities. Once off limits to the public, the tunnel is now open as part of the hotel's historical tours.
It was intended to be big enough for people to walk through, so people could service it and update it, but some of these pipes date back to when the hotel was brand new.
Right beside the tunnel, crews unexpectedly uncovered remnants of the original power plant building.
Well, this is one of the original features that we wanted to protect as part of the project, and it's an old fire door. It's, you can see, it's an overhead supported fire door. There were several of these throughout the building, and it's got great character and charm to it. And there was no reason to remove it. It's a historic feature of the buildings.
The power plant supplied energy to the hotel in Coronado until 1922. The nearby smokestack was also built in 1888, and it provided electricity to the hotel, Coronado residents, and businesses. The hotel would switch to the city's electrical grid in 1956.
Well, we are at the back, or the east side of the powerhouse, in the boiler room area as well. And you can see all the original red clay bricks. Now they fired all these bricks on site. This is where there were voids in the brick and the mortar was deteriorating. So this has all been restored. This is a new opening to provide access. The building is still very much used and is necessary for the operations of the hotel. But it does show, a lot of the restored work here.
Built in 1889, the ice house produced up to 15 tons of ice daily for the hotel and Coronado. After upgrades, it has been fully restored, preserving historic features and reusing reclaimed items.
That's one of the most exciting aspects of the master plan to me, is the restoration of the ice house. It was built in 1889. It was added onto the power plant, and it was built to accommodate a new 10-ton ice machine.
Following upgrades, the ice house has been carefully restored, preserving its historic features and incorporating reclaimed materials. Now serving as the hotel's museum, it celebrates the Dell's rich legacy. Built in 1919 from red brick, the laundry building served hotel guests, Coronado residents, and businesses with 5 trucks and a branch on Orange Avenue. Only one original truck survived. Over time, wear and tear led to significant modifications, though some equipment remained intact, offering a glimpse into its past operations up to 2018. The building was restored by removing exterior white paint, refurbishing the brick, and adding seismic retrofitting, all while preserving key historical details.
and remove the paint. It was one brick at a time. And so it was a long, tedious process, but a wonderful result and preservation of the brick.
Due to extensive damage, most of the original transom windows were recreated. Original windows that could be saved were carefully restored. The skylights, typical of industrial architecture of the era, were also restored.
All the beautiful exposed structure, the wood trusses, the skylights or clear stories to bring in all that daylight, and then the old conveying system for the laundry equipment is in the back corner there, all that red metal. That's all original.
The original machinery has been carefully restored and preserved, remaining a key part of the building. At the south end of the property stands the historic Oxford Building, Coronado's first hotel, built in July 1887, at the same time as the Dell, but completed earlier. It once housed the Dell's construction workers, and in later years it was almost demolished before being saved and moved multiple times. Therefore, it holds historical value and a strong connection to the resort. Acquired by the Dell in 1983, the Oxford was restored as part of the project.
The exterior is being restored. We're bringing back the original colors, and then we're also reworking the interior to make it a little more efficient. It will still be used as offices, but it's very much a historic hotel, just like the main Dell building is.
Following the restoration of the industrial buildings and reimagining of the original south main entrance, guests can now experience Hotel del Coronado as visitors did in 1888. Its preserved architecture and rich history ensure the Dell's legacy endures for future generations. The Dell is one of the most photographed and documented landmarks in Southern California. During its restoration and revitalization, a museum and archives room was dedicated to the hotel's rich history. Each weaves together the hotel's history and legacy. Step back in time at the historic Hotel del Coronado, where black and white photos, documents, and ephemera bring history to life. Key historical materials supported the resort's multi-year restoration and revitalization from 2019 through 2025. And for the first time in its nearly 140-year history, it now features a dedicated space to preserve its legacy.
This is one of the most intriguing pieces of our collection to me. These are Babcock's letters. So starting from February 1888, when the hotel opened, till about 1904, he was a prolific letter writer who wrote 10 to 20 letters a day. Anywhere from ordering coal, repairs on property, incoming guests, preparing for the King of Hawaii's arrival in 1890.
These records, along with the hotel's first architectural design and plans, capture the details of Elisha Babcock Jr., Hampton's story, and architect James Reed's extraordinary vision of creating a grand hotel. But at one point, part of the collection was removed from the Dell.
All of the guests who stayed here at the hotel, we have financial records, employee records, payroll records as well. In 1977, we donated the collection to San Diego State University, and it's been there for the past 40 years, and we recently reacquired the collection. It's really been a treasure trove of information for us that we did not previously have access to.
Historical details from documents and vintage photos have been essential in uncovering the hotel's past, shedding light on notable guests, key events, and the many changes made over time, with many discoveries now shared with the public through the exhibits at the hotel's museum.
In the very early days, where people like Cornelius Vanderbilt, Mrs. J.P. Morgan came, Andrew Carnegie. So this was a place to see and be seen. It was a very prominent place, and especially for Easterners who would come out to the hotel during the winter months. They were escaping the Eastern climates.
The documents are more than a historical record. They are a window into another era, capturing the lives of visitors from everyday guests to Hollywood stars, U.S. presidents, and European royalty. Each page preserves the hotel's rich legacy. After 6 years of restoration and revitalization, the Del has been returned to its 1888 Victorian splendor. Lost elements were revived, restored, replicated, and reimagined, blending timeless elegance with modern design. One of the last seaside Victorian resorts, its legacy now lives on for generations. We hope you enjoyed Historic Places, where we help preserve and share Southern California's history. Thanks for watching. Until next time.